Mr. Howard, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Amadis?
Here.
Mrs. Buckley?
Here.
Mr. Christensen?
Here.
Mrs. Cook?
Here.
Mrs. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Means?
Present.
Mrs. Rule? Mr. Spacuzza?
Present.
Mr. Workmeister?
Present.
All 9 members present this evening.
Great, thank you. Earlier this month, the 17 members of the Bethel Park High School Varsity Competitive Spirit Squad and their 2 coaches traveled to Orlando, Florida to compete in the National High School Cheerleading Championships, and the squad came home with not 1, but 2 titles. At the 2-day national championships held at the ESPN Wide World of Sports Complex, the girls captured first place in the large varsity non-tumbling category, and as national champions, they automatically qualified to compete in the World High School Cheerleading Championships. At the World Championships, they competed against teams from 10 different countries. Their flawless performance at Worlds also earned them the title of Large Varsity Non-Tumbling World Champions. This is quite a feat for this squad, which has only been competing on the national stage for 3 years and lost 13 of its members last year to graduation. So with a fairly inexperienced but enthusiastic group, they managed to wow the national and world competitions and bring these 2 prestigious titles back to Bethel Park. It is our pleasure to welcome the cheerleaders and their coaches to our meeting this evening to publicly recognize them and to congratulate them on an outstanding weekend in Florida. Thank you for showcasing your talents to the world and for bringing this positive recognition to Bethel Park. We are extremely proud of all of you, your dedication, hard work, and enthusiasm, as well as your 2016 National and World Championships. You have set the bar extremely high for future squads, and we will always remember your outstanding performances. I encourage anybody who hasn't seen the videos from their competitions to check them out on our athletic website. On behalf of the Board of School Directors, it is my pleasure to be able to present you with certificates of recognition for your wonderful achievements. Thank you for joining us this evening so we could publicly recognize you. I'm going to ask the coach to meet me at the podium so I don't mess up names. Congratulations. Alyssa Arnold. I think they're in alphabetical order too, so that'll help you out. Congratulations. Aaron Brown. Riley Evans. Tessa Garino. Tori Magnotti. Gabrielle Miller. Taylor Morissetti. one what I would have messed up. Maddie Ottaviano. Even the coach messed up. Camry Peters. Kelsey Quinn. Riley Rusak. Just have you non-tumble up there. Congratulations. Hannah Cease. Kelly Sheltman. Paige Steinhaus. One name I know. Lindsay Valvo. Carolyn Vaughna. Angela Vorko. Let's give it another round of applause.
Hey, they've done this before.
Donna, stand up, you can get in the picture.
Vicki, that's the first group you didn't need to give directions to.
They knew how to pose.
Congratulations.
And girls, if you want to just wait there, we also have,
Stay there for a moment.
Coach, would you like to say something? And then I'm going to,
Yeah. I won't take too much of your time. I know you guys
just
have
stay there
important
for a minute.
business here, but we just want to take the opportunity to thank you guys for bringing them in and recognizing them. They do so much throughout the year. We start in April, and then they don't even finish until March with their fashion show every year that we hold for Special Olympics. So they're a really hardworking group. Like we said, they're very young. We're only going to be graduating 4 seniors this year compared to our 13 last year. So hopefully they're going to be able to, if not repeat, just continue to excel not only cheering, but at the games and also in the classroom. We have a lot of very high academic scholars as well on our team. So we're really proud of them for their national success, but also for all their work in the community and in the classroom. So again, board, thank you so much for inviting us in. We really do appreciate your support.
wonderful. And I'm going to ask you all to stay because we also have Allegheny County Councilwoman Sue Means here, and she has a special recognition from the county. So, Mrs. Means, the podium is yours.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here today to participate in your celebration, and I'm going to give you also a certificate of achievement. But today truly is a day to celebrate, a day to give thanks, a day to reflect, and a day to think about this is the day that when you won on the February 7th, a day to hold in your heart forever, because you did it together as a team. But the team goes beyond your teammates. It goes a special day to give thanks to your parents, your wonderful coach. You have 2 coaches, and your grandparents. I'm sure there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And so I can, you probably have to think about there's probably a chiropractor that needs today, and a doctor, maybe a nurse, and teachers, but take the wonderful enthusiasm you have, take the skill that you have, and give it to others and share it with other people. Even if it's not cheerleading, take your wonderful lives and dedicate them to other people and help other people. If it's help somebody learn how to read, help somebody with their math. But again, congratulations on behalf of Allegheny County Council. I'm not going to read your names again. I'll just give your certificates to your coach, and then she can pass them out. But it's an honor to be here today, again, to be with the honorable school board members and Superintendent Nancy Rose. And please, when you go home tonight, I'm going to reflect my motherhood and tell you to write a thank you note, to think of one person who along the way, maybe there was a time you were really discouraged, and that person helped you and encouraged you. So congratulations again. You have proven once again that Allegheny County is the county of champions.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
I think we can make Mrs. Means an honorary cheerleader. She's got that enthusiasm.
Congratulations.
Thanks, guys, for coming in. Congratulations.
Thanks, girls.
Well done. Great job.
They're all clicking as they go with their medals.
Okay, so we'll move from cheerleading to banking. We have a next presentation is from Mr. Basic and PNC.
You really make me fall.
All that cuteness.
Good evening. And while that's being handed out, I apologize for this is discussion about a potential refinancing opportunity. Don't like to spring this on you at the last minute, but we have to react to market developments, cause things to change quickly in the market, so we want to make sure we brought this to your attention.
Excuse me, could you raise the microphone just a little bit?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, sir. Okay. We can, and this is the series of 2009 bonds. If you want to turn to page 4, which is the first page of any meat to it, your outstanding debt of the district really just consists of 2 bond issues, the series of 2012, which are not eligible right now to be refunded, and the series of 2009, of course, for the high school. And we since 2009, we've constantly monitored it, but it really had made no sense until started about a year or so ago on Matt and. Can I call you Buzzy at a public meeting, or I have to call you Leonard? We began to put it on our radar a little more closely as the savings started to come up, and then most recently, in the last month or two, we felt, again, it deserved your attention. So if we look at page 6, and there's 3 different scenarios of options of refunding this 2009 issue. And each scenario contains 2 pages, and that's simply because when I tried to put them all on one page, the print got too small. But we go through one, and then I think the next 2 can move pretty quickly. The one thing I want to point out that's always very, very relevant when you folks issue bonds is your outstanding bond rating, which is AA2, which is one of the highest ratings in this side of the state. And of course, that means your interest rates are low when you borrow, because investors are look at the credit and realize how risk-free you are, and that translates to, just like a consumer or anybody else, your credit report drives what your interest rates might be. So this scenario looks at the total outstanding amount of that 2009 issue. Still outstanding is $81,380,000. This is the one extreme of the spectrum, which is just looking at what we call a bank-qualified refunding and just saying, okay, let's just limit to no more than $10 million because you receive advantageous interest rates if it's $10 million or less. And let's just take a small scale, and what would that look like? And the savings associated with that, and remember, when we save money, the state is reimbursing you on your bond payments, and so to the effect of about 9%, meaning for every dollar you save, they would get 9 cents of that because they're reimbursing on your payments. They get some of that savings as well. This issue, then that bank qualified issue, and the one thing I want to point out, when you look at the amount, if you look at outstanding par refunded, it says $8,720,000. And if you look down to the under uses of funds, series of 2016, you'll see it says $9,902,000. Well, wait a minute, if we have 8.7 outstanding, why do we have to pay 9.9? Well, that's because there's interest that is owed to bondholders from now until the date you can call these bonds in, which is 2019. And we'll talk about that call date in a minute. So that's interest and principal, which is why that adds up to more than what's outstanding. There are the difference in rates between 2009 and what we're looking at today. I mean, when we look at the longest ones out in 2032, 33, we're looking at a difference between 510 to like 290 now. So big interest rate differential. So on the next page 7, for this bank qualified issue, if you look at that savings summary, your savings would be $860,000. Now, I want to call your attention to what you see there in red, the negative arbitrage, $321,000. What that refers to, let's just take arbitrage for a second. What is arbitrage? That is, in municipal bonds, if you borrow at 3% and you would invest that money at 4%, that difference of 1%, they call that arbitrage, making more than what you're borrowing at. Haven't done that in a long time with the market being what it is with investment rates. But so negative arbitrage is just the opposite, meaning if you sell bonds today to refinance the 2009 bonds, investors have a call date on those bonds of 2019, which means they still are owed their payments until 2019. So what happens, it's called an advance refunding. You borrow the money today to satisfy whatever amount of bonds you've decided to refund. You put it in an escrow account with the bank, who makes the payments on your behalf to the investors. Between now and 2019, that escrow is used to pay those bondholders every 6 months. You don't have to pay that anymore. You start paying on the lower payments of the new bond issue. However, the arbitrage, what you're allowed to earn in that escrow account, because you borrow and put the money in Treasury securities, would be the amount of your new rate, your new borrowing rate. So let's say that's 3%. You could potentially earn up to 3% in that escrow. You can't earn 3% in today's market for 2 or 3 years. You earn maybe 1%. The difference between 1 and 3, that's what's called negative arbitrage. So if you, in a perfect world, if you could earn 3%, you'd be earning more, which means you have to borrow less to put in that account. So that's what negative arbitrage means and that $860,000 is what you receive after that's taken into account, after costs are taken into account. So the one thing is these numbers start to get bigger on the following pages. So the savings go up and negative arbitrage go up. So what we've always tracked is, we believe when negative arbitrage is more than your savings, even if your savings are a lot, in good conscience, to let that much money sort of go by the wayside. Because in other words, if you wait for 3 years, you would have no negative carry in your escrow, right? Because you're not having to pay bonds for the next couple of years. The trick there is, where's interest rates going to be? 3 years. So what we try to manage is you look at the borrowing side and the investment side. And you're never going to have a perfect scenario. You're always going to have some amount of negative arbitrage. So this ratio here is about 3 to 1. For every $3 you save, there's maybe one potentially that you're giving up if rates were higher. The savings on this refunding, 9.87%, that's an important number. That's a benchmark number where what percent of the bonds you're refunding, in this case about 9 million, how much of the savings is a percent of that? The industry standard's 3%, 2%, 4%. So you're way above that threshold. So that's something else to keep in mind. Because ultimately what this comes down to, you have to start to weigh, okay, bird in hand, can save a lot of money today. There is that negative arbitrage. Kind of tough to leave some of that sitting there, sort of opportunity cost. But what we think maybe a measured approach is, you take advantage of today's low rates, perhaps, and save a good amount of money. But there's maybe you don't have to refund all the bonds, and you allow some of those bonds to go to the call date. That's really driven by your need for budgetary impact or what you could do financially with that. Because obviously if you save money, perhaps it avoids you having to borrow money in the future for some capital projects. So that's a small scale approach. The next page, we go to the other extreme. What if you refund almost all the bonds that are outstanding? In this case, 72 million. We don't refund the bonds that are coming due between 2016 and 2019 because you can't save any money on those because they're going to stay outstanding until 2019. Only time you start to save money is when you can get rid of the old bonds that are sitting out there at 5% and replace them with the new. That begins in 2019. So we don't include those. So now, when we look at $72 million in refunding amount, if you go to page 9, the number now goes to 6 million. So in today's dollars. If you look at the orange column at the bottom on the right side, you'll see that as 7.4 million. And there's no magic. We just tried as best as we could for this scenario to have the savings be about the same every year. But you could elect to have the savings all accrue to you at one time at the closing of the bond issue. The only stipulation there is you must use those monies for capital projects. But you could have money accrue over the next 3 years in your budget as savings, 10 years, 5 years. We can adjust it to what your needs are. So this just takes a straight line as best we could, level approach, same amount you save every year for budgeting.
Once you make that decision of how you want the money, do you have to stick with it?
Not until you actually sell the bonds. So you can keep, playing with it or adjusting it, and then once you say to us, okay, go sell bonds, then that's when we kind of have to set up the payment structure accordingly. So the 7.4 is the savings you would receive in cash over the life of this bond. But of course, a dollar saved or to you 10 years from now isn't worth as much as today. That's what present value means. It takes 7.4 million savings over the next 15, 16 years. In today's dollars, it's about 6 million present value. 6, 7, it's still a substantial amount of money. Now that negative arbitrage is 2.8. So you're still maintaining that positive, more savings than negative arbitrage, but obviously as your savings go up, so is that negative arbs, because we're including more bonds now in the transaction. So that's the other extreme. What if we wipe the slate, completely clean of the old bonds and replace them with new ones? The last scenario, then we just sort of did a middle of the road. Okay, we have extremely low historical interest rates to borrow at. Maybe wise to take advantage of that, but yet maybe not necessarily refund all the bonds because of this negative arbitrage, and maybe leave some sit back, and in a couple years, maybe markets will work for us, and we've eliminated that negative arbitrage, and maybe rates haven't gone up that much, and we can say maybe more in a couple of years than we could today. There's no right or wrong with that, because again, by any standard, anybody looks back 20 years, the folks that succeed you, or you may still be here, you look at that crystal, they look back and say, at the time you did this, rates were at all-time lows. Your savings were 9, 10, 8% of the bonds that you're refunding, more than almost anybody else gets. So there's no, that's sound by any means. It's just, we certainly want you to be made aware of that cost in that escrow. Because for me to just come in and say, hey, you can save $6 million, not tell you that, I'm not doing right by you. So the $39 million, roughly, a little more, just about half. On page 11, that number goes to $3.2 million. So now your savings are $3.2 million, and your negative arbitrage, a little more than half of that. And this is what I like to come make a presentation, give you nice problems to stew over.
Can you explain the negative arbitrage again?
Yes.
I don't know if it was just me. Could you do it for me?
Sure. So the call date on the bonds is 2019, August 2019.
Right.
So the existing bondholders of the 2009 bonds, they are entitled to their payments, interest payments every 6 months until 2019. That doesn't stop us from refunding those bonds today and having you start to pay on the lower ones, but you still must meet that obligation to them until 2019. When August 2019 comes, the bank sends out a notice to all the existing bondholders that still are holding bonds and says, in 30 days, we're calling all of these in. They're all gone. And you stop receiving any interest as of August of 2019. So we must meet that obligation until then. So we borrow money today to pay off those old bonds, and then of course we're going to invest them, because you've got 3 years of that sitting before you can use it to call all of them in.
And that's what I want you to go into, how the investment then.
Yeah, so it's invested in Treasury securities, which, even though, God bless our government, it's still the safest investment that you can find to put the money in to protect the taxpayers' interests. You invest in 1 and 2 and 3 year Treasury rates. But a 2-year Treasury rate isn't near as much as a 10 or 15-year borrowing rate of municipal bonds, even though it's tax exempt. So we have a mismatch. So your old rate that you're paying is 4.5%. That's what you have to sort of meet to those bondholders until 2019. We can only earn about 1 or 1.5%. The difference between that is the negative. And so how do we satisfy that requirement till 2019? Well, if we can't earn the interest, then we have to put more of our bonds in. We have to issue more bonds to put more in that escrow. And that's all taken into account when you get to these savings numbers. But that's what that number is. If this was August 2019, I would have never said a word about negative arbitrage, because as soon as you issue the bonds, you can pay them off and they're gone. And again, that's just trying to give you, we're not drive you crazy with options, but kind of a sensitivity analysis. And speaking of sensitivity, and I'm almost wrapping up here because I know you have a busy agenda. And again, I really appreciate you taking the time to kind of put us on here at the last minute. That box on the left, I always find it very interesting, because that gives you some sense of what happens if rates go up or down, the savings number. And so if you look at the box, it says we're 0 basis, so 3.3,209,000. That's where we are now. If you look up one, minus 25 basis points. So if interest rates go down by 25 basis points, 3.25 to 3%, your savings would go up 1.3 million. Conversely, if they go up 25 basis points, and that's what's being bet here as we move forward, they drop by that amount. So there's big numbers that go up or down based on not a whole lot of movement in interest rates. Let me just stop there because the last page is just to give you a couple little things about the market overall. Any questions? Sometimes I feel like I'm talking too fast because I'm always conscious about not taking up too much of your time.
What type of time frame do you think we need before we would have to react to this?
Well, if what you could do, and if you want to consider, is it takes about a month or so, 5 weeks, for your administration solicitor bond counsel and myself to get the documents and paperwork ready. That doesn't cost you any money. You're only going to pay me when you actually would sell bonds and close. So with one exception being the rating fee. You have to go get your rating fee, and you owe those folks the fee whether you end up doing the bonds or not. But, I mean, ultimately, you'll be doing a bond issue, so the rating will be used at some point. But, so if you say, okay, well, go say to us tonight, or authorize us, or pass a motion, go get your ducks in a row. Get all the paperwork ready, secure the rating, put that offering document together that you would send to investors if we wanted to sell bonds. It takes us a month or so. We could come back, I could come back at your March meeting, or if we're not ready for that, then April, and then say, okay, everything's ready. Here's an update on the market. Here's where it stands now. Here's what your savings are. Give you plenty of time to think about if you want to proceed with refunding all, portion, some amount. You can talk about that over the next month or two. We come back. You might have come up with more questions to ask me or whatever. So you're not obligating yourselves to do anything tonight if you say, take that next step, because we're always going to be a month behind trying to take advantage of the market for you until we get that sort of legwork ready.
Is there some external factor that does create a sense of urgency? Is that what you're asking, Dave? Already, treasuries have been near zero for, 5 years or so, 4 years have been low. The Fed increased rates about 3 months ago, but now, when you read, they're kind of maybe backing off and less aggressive on raising in the future. Do you see some external event that may cause rates to be increased or to actually create a sense of urgency? Because the longer we wait, if we wait until 2019, the negative arbitrage goes down.
Right.
So is there a sense of urgency here?
Right. Well, the urgency is that if you wait a couple, 3 years, chances, and you can read it at your leisure, but there's interest rate forecasts, is that rates are going to keep going up. So you may save $1 on not having to pay that or have that negative arbitrage. You might end up having to borrow at $2 higher. So to answer your question, it's really what's caused us to be in this position. The Fed, when they raised that short-term rate, that actually helped that earnings in the escrow. So that was good only in that sense for you. The looming thing is, problems in China, the stock market, ups and downs right now, oil prices being low. So that's kind of depressed the rates in bonds because people are moving money out of stocks. People think the global economy is slowing down, inflation is going to be slow. So that's what's driving rates low. It's also having why a lot of people are moving their money into bonds. And so the more demand for bonds, of course, supply and demand, the lower the rates. So that's the concern, is geopolitical events, something that happens beyond our control, your control, the government's control, that causes investors to say, whoa, the ball game's changed here, and next thing you know, rates start going up, or the economy does start to pick up, or the global economies start to get some. It's all about what the investor's perception is of what's going on in the world economically, and so how much money, what kind of return do I want, and where do I want to put my money based on what I'm afraid of might happen to stocks of certain companies, or I feel safer putting my money in bonds where I know at least I'm getting 3% no matter what. So it's really those types of global events and economic events that cause this up and down. So as my thought is, if we at least get the ducks in a row for you, you're always positioned to move in if you feel compelled to do so for whatever that information is or set of circumstances that you have at the time. But we, at least thought with these kinds of savings numbers, it was to the point we thought it's definitely, for you to.
Yeah, and the fact that you're here and that's what you always do, you watch and you tell us, I'll be back whenever the time.
It's been 7 years, but it's patience, but yeah.
Right,
Right.
And so I feel like, we probably should give them the go-ahead to start.
So we just want to, sort of get the dialogue started with you
Can I ask a
tonight,
question before we leave? Okay.
And then we'll just take your lead in terms of how, any next steps, and we'll just follow along with what you do. In the meantime, of course, we'll keep track of everything with Matt and Leslie.
And
That's
Mr. Means has to
why
get
it's
that.
us wanting to take it in one lump or over the course of years. That doesn't have to be decided for a while. That's right.
Right.
So good.
This is
Right.
Mr. Means, you had a question?
Yeah, would you please explain the
what you said about the basis points, that applies to the actual interest rate that we would have to pay on the bonds, correct?
Yes, sir.
And a basis point is,
1 basis point would mean a movement from 3% to 3.01. So it's 1/100th of a percent, if you will.
100th of a percent, okay. And when would we get locked into these?
When you would actually sell bonds to investors, where there'd be a public marketing effort, where we would have an official statement like a stock prospectus is sent out to investors. They solicit, they put in orders or where they would like to buy bonds at what rates, and then it's that process of selling them at rates and under your direction in terms of what type of savings you were looking for, so that if we can't reach it, we don't move ahead. And it's not at all a black box. I mean, what we did the last time and would be happy to do now, we invite board members, administration to come down to the offices to actually observe the sale that day. So you can see what else is going on in the market, what other bond issues are going on, what are the rates, what are our rates compared to that. So, you know, tonight's just an initial, but make sure it's a very transparent process for you so you understand how these are being sold.
Would the interest rate be locked in at the time we gave the approval?
Yes. When you sell the bonds, and I come that night and your bond counsel, your solicitor reviews it's a debt ordinance, and it would set forth what the rates are. And if you approve that incurring of that indebtedness, the rates are locked in. It's like a home mortgage. It takes another 30 days to get all the paper closed. But whatever happens, good or bad, doesn't affect you. You're locked in as of that night.
You have buyers as of that time. You have investors as of that
Yes.
time. You don't have to go out and try to sell them.
Right. And really there's about a week of pre-marketing that goes on before the bonds actually are offered for sale to gauge interest and whatnot.
Yeah, I actually think that timing is really key right now. I think that this is something we need to move forward with quickly, because even if the Fed doesn't raise rate in March, I think later in the year they may do that. And, you know, plus it's a presidential election year, and, you know, you never know what the market's going to do with that. So
I've been waiting patiently with you for since some time, because we had this discussion briefly back then, and I was hoping that we would get an opportunity to do it.
Michael, could I ask you just to clarify one issue, and I think we understand cash in bank, so cash in our banks at closing, how much that would be, and if you could just do that on the example on page 11 with the half. So if we would refinance the 36 million, and we chose to take all those savings up front, and with the arbitrage that we lose, how much cash would we have in the bank, or just estimated in this scenario?
It would be that 3.2, not 3.2 million.
So that would go into our bank account. We'd have to use it for capital reserve, of course.
Capital project, and it's treated almost like bond. You'd have 3 years in which to spend it, and have to be used for capital projects. Yeah.
That's under scenario number 3 with refinancing 35 million, or is that refinancing?
Really, any refunding you do of any amount.
No, I'm saying the 3 million. You said 3 million. That's
on page 11.
35 million.
Yeah.
Item 3. That's 35 million. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Middle of the road.
It would be double that if we went with the whole enchilada there. Okay.
And of course, that's, you know, again, looking at a home mortgage, well, I don't lower my monthly payments, bank, I want to put a deck on my house. So your payments in the budget on debt would be the exact same as they are now, because you elected to take everything right up front. So, yeah, that's, I mean, it just completely unsolicited, and hopefully you don't mind my saying, being coming here a number of years, is, you know, I think maybe at least a portion of it, because you're then at least, on the one hand, you're taking advantage of this optimal situation, but then again, you're leaving some back. So if somebody says, well, if you waited, well, we have some that we're going to wait on. So one way or another, we're at least taking advantage or having some benefit, we know for sure.
And we don't change the 2019 date by doing it, it stays the same there.
Whatever, right. Well, yeah, once you, of course, refund them, it's gone, but if the ones you don't refund, if you choose to refund, say, 30 million, the other 50 still have that 2019 call date.
And would any of these other options give us something that goes beyond the 2019 then, if we did something like that? Or, I mean, I'm not sure how that would work if we do something for future on that?
Well, if you, let's say you issued 30 million today to refund a like amount, so that 30 million you refunded in 2019, they're gone.
Right.
You would have a new call date on the 30 million. In 2026, you could, if down the road, you could refinance the 30 million you're borrowing today. So you have an option to refund the new set of bonds at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Probably not for as much savings because the rate's a lot lower than it was in 2009, but still that, you still have that opportunity down the road.
What's all the drawbacks of doing this then? I mean,
Well, I think,
the arbitrage, you know, that's one.
yeah, the other one really is, what if rates go even lower? You know, and then we could have maybe saved more, but that's something you face with every refunding. And most of the refundings I've done over my career, at some point, if they had waited, they probably could have done a little better. But that's why you just look at what are the circumstances and facts when you do it. And when you're looking at where historical rates are, when you're looking at the 9 or 10% of, you know, savings, you say, okay, I mean, if somebody wants to look back 5 years and say, well, if you had waited 3 years, well, you know, we didn't have that crystal ball at the time. So, but again, just to sort of kick it off for you tonight, it's, you know, again, given where it is, the markets and the savings you're looking at, just wanted it to be brought to your attention, and you let us know where you want to go from here.
I appreciate that.
Michael, I passed out that motion that you had written for us earlier today. If the board would want to let you proceed, that would be the motion that you would prefer to have read or prefer to have passed tonight?
Yes, and to emphasize again, that's not committing you to do the bonds, to sell the bonds in any amount. It's just, we know to take the next step to get you closer to the starting line. So you're poised, based on whatever your considerations are, whatever information we give you about the markets, you say, okay, let's pull the trigger on some amount, we can go do that right away.
There is that one fee, and what is the cost of that fee?
That fee is based on how much you borrow. So I have it here. I think if you did the 39 million, it would be 23,000. If you did the whole amount, it's 30,000, and I think if you just did like 10 million, it would be about 11 or 12,000. And that's would be the only one.
And that would cover, that's the only fee
Unless you sell, yeah, if you never sell bonds,
that we would,
right now that would be, you'd still have to
Yeah.
pay them,
That-
nobody else.
okay.
And, you know, at some point you would kind of avail yourself of that rating sooner or later when you do issue bonds, but never, I want to make sure that you knew that was one fee you would be obligated to pay if you never moved ahead.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
So if it's the board's pleasure, then I would ask when we adopt the agenda that we make that addition under, that Mr. Ammons would make that addition under the Finance Committee. So I would ask, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
There are. I would like to add a number 8 under the Finance Committee, which reads approval of bond underwriter and bond counsel.
Second.
Okay, so then I need a motion to adopt the, or I need a vote on the addition? No, we're just reading the addition. I need a motion to adopt the agenda with that amendment to finance.
So moved.
All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries 9-0. I need to have a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of January 21st, 2016, and the regular meeting of January 26, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries 9-0. I need to announce executive sessions held February 3rd, 2016 for personnel, other legal matters, and to receive information. February 11th, 2016 for personnel, other legal matters, and to receive information. February 16th, 2016 for personnel, other legal matters, and to receive information. And February 23rd, 2016 for personnel, other legal matters, and to receive information. Moving on to staff reports, and Ms. O'Rourke.
It is my pleasure to share with you several interesting items of good news this evening. Congratulations to the Bethel Park High School Varsity Competitive Spirit Squad, who were in the house this evening in their third year of national competition, captured first place in the large varsity non-tumbling category at the ESPN Worldwide of Sports National Cheerleading Competition in Orlando, Florida, and the World Championship title. They were the highest-ranking WPIAL school at both of these competitions. Congratulations to our national and world high school cheerleading champions and coaches. Bethel Park High School students did a fantastic job of presenting the second annual African American Read-In on February 7th in celebration of February as African American History Month. The program featured selections from famous African American authors as well as some original works. This is a nationwide program sponsored by the National Council of Teachers of English and co-sponsored by our Stand Group. 5 Bethel Park High School students earned awards at the 82nd Annual Pennsylvania Junior Academy of Science Competition. Congratulations to first place winners Emily Kauser, James Fleckenstein, and Jessica Veman, and to second place winners Jeremy Huvey and Lindsay Waldbaum. The first place winners will advance to the state PJAS, which will be held in May at Penn State. Congratulations and good luck to all. A team of 5 Bethel Park High School students captured first place at the 25th Annual Science Bowl Regional Competition, competing against 57 teams from area high schools in this competition, which tested students' knowledge of all aspects of science and math. Winning the regional competition were Akil Rahajakar, Evan Ehrenholm, Emily Augustine, Billy DePudeloff, and Max Reese. As the regional winner, the team will advance to the final round of the competition on March 9th at the Department of Energy's lab facility in South Park to compete against the other 3 regional winners for a chance to represent the region at the National Science Bowl. Good luck to our team. At the halftime of the recent boys basketball game, Congressman Tim Murphy had the honor of presenting Bethel Park High School senior Sarah Amato with her admission into the United States Military Academy at West Point for the class of 2020. Part of her acceptance letter read, quote, "Your appointment to the class of 2020 is an outstanding accomplishment. In gaining admission, you have demonstrated exceptional potential for future service in the U.S. Army and the nation. West Point's education and training programs will give you the opportunity to fully develop that potential." End quote. Congratulations, Sarah. Bethel Park High School senior Joe Campion was recently presented with the U.S. Army ROTC Scholarship. This scholarship will provide full college tuition and mandatory educational fees, as well as room and board for $10,000 per year, along with an allowance for textbooks, school supplies, and required equipment. In addition to these generous benefits, this scholarship also includes an educational grant of up to $5,000 each school year. The average value for a full-year scholarship is approximately $100,000. Joe has already been accepted to the Citadel and the Virginia Military Academy and is still weighing his options. Congratulations, Joe. 5 Bethel Park High School students earned the Extra Effort Award for the second quarter of the 2015-16 school year for the Steele Center for Career and Technology Education. These awards are given to those students who demonstrate outstanding attitude, work ethic, attendance, and dependability. Congratulations to Cassandra Callery, Drake Hudson, Mike Pauline, Rebecca Toon, and Paige Williams. The Rotary Club of Bethel Park named Bethel Park High School senior Will Dunn its January Rotary Student of the Month. Each month during the school year, the Rotary Club recognizes Bethel Park High School students for outstanding commitment to school and/or community. Will was recognized for his involvement at the high school, serving as senior class vice president and secretary of student council. He is also co-chairing a year-long PR campaign through DECA to promote awareness for pet adoptions. Additionally, Will volunteers at St. Clair Hospital. Congratulations, Will. Earlier this month, Bethel Park High School Level 2 and Level 3 child development students were teachers for a day. when they presented lessons about business and economics to students at St. Louis de Marillac. The high school students took over the teaching on JA Day, sponsored by Junior Achievement. Students worked in small groups to present a series of 5 or 6 activities to the K-8 students at St. Louis, all centered around work readiness, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy. The grade appropriate curriculum was developed by Junior Achievement, giving the high school students, many of whom aspire to be teaching professionals, an opportunity to see how well they would do in front of the classroom. The high school students were extremely impressed with the younger students' ability to grasp the concepts, and the younger students were appreciative of the lessons they learned that day. I'd also like to thank teacher Julie Jana for her willingness to prepare her students and give them the opportunity to see what classroom teaching is really like. Who knew that there would be a STEAM component in sewing? Miss Potts did. Her clothing and construction and tailoring students at Bethel Park High School participated in a conductive sewing STEAM project. For this project, students were given a white t-shirt, conductive thread, diodes, batteries, and a battery pack, and instructed to construct something that would light up. Miss Potts wanted the assignment to take on a Project Runway feel, and the students embraced the assignment with some cutting and reshaping of their t-shirts with the lights, while others used the t-shirt to create light-up aprons, pillows, and stuffed animals. The conductive thread t-shirt project was paid for with the funds obtained by the high school last year when it received a $20,000 STEAM grant from the Allegheny Intermediate Unit. The students in Mr. Wells's 4th period woodworking class at the high school are working together this school year to build a canoe. Throughout the school year, the students have been taking time from working on their individual projects to work together to construct a canoe from plans that Mr. Wells obtained from the Carpenters Union Training School. They're doing a great job. If you're wondering what they are going to do with the canoe once it is completed, they will probably raffle it off, with the money raised used to purchase more materials for future students to build another canoe. The next few slides will feature some of our outstanding musicians district-wide. 3 of our high school musicians recently auditioned and have been selected to play in the Pennsylvania Music Educator Association's Region Orchestra Concert, which will be held February 27th at State College High School. Congratulations to Jacob Lissick, Joseph Wasco, and Julian Wu. Congratulations to the following Bethel Park High School students who were successfully auditioned and have been selected to perform in the Pennsylvania Music Educators Association's Region Band Concert, which will be held at Valley High School. Representing Bethel Park in this event will be Alex DeRose, Caroline Greiner, Austin Habishaw, Cheyenne Mayers, and Joe Wasco. 13 of our high school vocalists will move on to the Pennsylvania Music Educator Association's Region Chorus Concert, which will be held on March 18th at Western Beaver High School. Congratulations to Lauren Bastato, Joe Campion, Kayla Dell, Maria Dykstra, Lily Farmery, Garrett Hoffman, Michaela Eisenberg, Claire Mikowski, Ian Marker, Jeffrey McCain, Tyler Petrossi, Daniel Cedar-Franzak, and Adrian Slater. Bethel Park High School 9th graders, Kobe Coleman, Kylie Flood, and Janelle Wu will join Independence Middle School 8th grader Jessica Abraham as the district's representatives to the Pennsylvania Music Educators Association Junior High School Orchestra, which will be held in April at Pine Richland High School. Congratulations to these outstanding musicians. Congratulations to Independence Middle School musicians Sam Donaldson, Heather Kinlan, Tyler Simpson, Alex Sedini, and Teresa Stopka, who have been selected to participate in the Pennsylvania Music Educators Association Junior High District Band Concert, which will be held in April at Baldwin High School. Neil Armstrong Middle School musicians, Braden Lloyd, Reggie Schaefer, Madison Teal, Benjamin Topper, and Abby Wright will proudly represent their school in the Pennsylvania Music Educators Association Elementary District Band Fest West, which will be held in March at Hampton High School. Congratulations to all of our musicians. Washington first grader Lucas Smethy was selected as a runner-up in the Ned Show's International Button Design Contest. The Ned Show is an international character education organization that encourages children to become champions in their school and in life. NED is an acronym for Never Give Up, Encourage Others, and Do Your Best. The contest asks students to design a button using one of NED's 3 slogans. Lucas chose Never Give Up, and his design features a superhero. He was presented with his runner-up certificate at a school assembly. His button design is on sale on the Ned Show website. Congratulations, Lucas. 40 of the district's elementary gifted students worked very hard to present a living wax museum at this year's elementary gifted convention. The students spent months researching a famous person, living or dead, from history, creating a trifold display about that person, and then dressing up as that person and giving a brief presentation as a wax museum. Some of this year's famous persons included Anne Frank, Albert Einstein, Grover Cleveland, Neil Armstrong, and Pablo Picasso. The students did a marvelous job. Thanks to elementary gifted coordinator Mrs. Yost for organizing an informative evening that showcased our elementary gifted students. Last night, Bethel Park Technology Director Ron Ryer was named the 2016 Chief Technology Officer of the Year by the Pennsylvania Association for Educational Communications and Technology. He received this honor because of his many accomplishments in Bethel Park, most notably his efforts in being the Google for Education platform and one-to-one Chromebook initiative to Bethel Park. Congratulations for this well-deserved recognition. We are also pleased to announce that 2 of our teachers are among the 33 semifinalists for the 2017 Bethel Teacher of the Year. Pennsylvania Teacher of the Year. They are already our Teachers of the Year. Sorry about that. I'm going to start that one over. We are also pleased to announce that 2 of our teachers are among the 33 semifinalists for the 2017 Pennsylvania Teacher of the Year. Congratulations and good luck to Franklin 4th grade teacher Katie Mucci and Bethel Park High School marketing teacher Emily Smoller as they advance through the competition and are hopefully among the 12 finalists when they are announced later this spring. Miss Mucci and Miss Smoller will join Bethel Park teachers Nicola Hipkins, Clyde Qualk, Christopher Jack, Katie Clifford, Charles Youngs, and retired teacher Cindy Buckley, who have also attained semifinalist status since 2008. Independence Middle School librarian Patty Heasley successfully wrote a grant application to the Pittsburgh Conference, a nonprofit agency based in Monroeville, and received $600 that will be used to purchase technology equipment for the makerspace in the IMS library. Some of the equipment the grant will purchase includes Connects Education Building, Simple Machines, Connects Education Forces, Energy and Motion, and NASCO Electricity Value Pack. We appreciate Mrs. Heasley's efforts to bring this equipment to Bethel Park at no cost to the district. Bethel Park Elementary Schools will begin kindergarten registration for the 2016-17 school year in March. Parents whose children will be the age of 5 on or before September 1st, 2016 are eligible to enroll their children in kindergarten at this time. Please go to any elementary school's website to download the kindergarten registration packet and have that completed in advance of your child's registration day. Don't forget to bring your child to registration as well. If you have any questions, please call any of our elementary schools. We thank our parents for registering their kindergarten students at this time to allow the district enough time to adequately plan for the 2016-17 school year. Bethel Park High School will stage the comedy Curtains as its 2016 musical offering, Wednesday through Saturday, March 2nd through the 5th at 7:30 p.m. in the Bethel Park High School auditorium. All tickets are $10 and are on sale daily from 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. in the high school lobby. Tickets can also be purchased at the door on performance evenings. Senior citizens can receive half-price admission to the Wednesday and Thursday performances. Students in kindergarten through 4th grade can receive half-price admission to all performances, but only if the tickets are bought on performance evenings. Come out and enjoy this great Broadway musical that starred David Hyde Pierce, better known as Niles from Frasier. Break a leg to the cast and crew. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you very much. Student government.
Hi, I'm JD Measures, and I'm the junior school board representative from SGA. And our most recent project were the UTA bands, and the UTA bands benefited a student in need named Elton with scholarship money, and we raised a total of $1,078, with $308 going directly to Elton to help him out. And in an upcoming project, we are planning another Spirit Week to increase our student involvement, and that's about all for right now.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. PTA, PTO Council.
Hi, thank you. I'm Tracy Fedko, the co-president of the PTO Council and proud parent of students at IMS and the high school. I will start with the elementary schools first. Lincoln had a bowling party on the Martin Luther King holiday. They do that every year at Legacy Lanes, and the kids had a blast. The school also celebrated Lincoln's birthday and President's Day by having a Lincoln Day at school with games, prizes, and kids got to pose for pictures with Abe Lincoln himself. On February 5th, they had their talent show with a Walt Disney theme. The students performed for the school during the afternoon and then had an evening performance for the parents. The event's a lot of hard work by the PTO, but the kids absolutely love it. The kids at all the elementaries love theirs. The February 12th was the Valentine's Day parties. With the help of many parent volunteers, the students spent the afternoon playing games, crafts, and exchanging Valentines. This past Friday evening, they had a new activity called the Princess Ball. It's a girl and special male adult. It could be a father, grandfather, uncle, or even a friend of the family. It included dinner and dancing for the girls and their special male friends. It was a first-year event, and it went really well. So they're having a boys' event in the spring with boys and moms or aunts or grandmas or something like that. This coming Friday will be STEAM Day at Lincoln Elementary. The day is dedicated to learning the fields of science, technology, engineering, art, and math, and will include speakers and activity stations for the students. Moving on to Ben Franklin. The Ben Franklin PTO just wrapped up their first Jump Rope for Heart, which raised over $2,000 for the American Heart Association. They're quickly switching gears to get ready for the 4th annual Readathon that will kick off this weekend. The PTO is going to decorate the classroom doors as a surprise for when the students come in on Monday. They're also going to host a magic show for the first time in March, and will end the month with a spirit night at Ritos following the 4th grade district chorus concert. Memorial had a very successful readathon where students raised money for reading and won prizes based on the highest readers in their class. The event kicked off at Barnes & Noble with a book fair that was attended by some of the teachers who read to the kids during story time up there. They also had a spirit night at the Trolley Stop, Chuck E. Cheese's, and TGI Fridays. All 3 events were fun, raised money, and brought the school together. They also just finished their last fundraiser of the year. Washington Elementary just finished their fundraisers again. The We Run Club is in its 5th year this year. The students again will train for the Kids Marathon by exercising, stretching, and running on Wednesdays through April, and to train for the Kids Marathon, which is in May. The Washington students celebrated President's Day last week. The 2nd graders performed the President's Song, and the 4th graders performed the state song. And they remember this. I have a high schooler who sits there and sings to figure out things for her history. So it works. Washington students participated in the Jump Rope for Heart today during school, and this evening was their health fair. They had activities for families, including a scavenger hunt, yoga, door prizes, and many vendors with information on various health topics. All proceeds went to the American Heart Association. Washington's Accelerated Reader program is in full swing and will end on March 4th. The theme for this year is Oh, the Places You'll Go. From Dr. Seuss, if no one knows that. One of those you remember by heart. Coming next month is the Art and Science Fair on March 11, and Washington students are busy preparing for the talent show, which they will hold in April. William Penn PTO celebrated a Spirit Day on January 29th. They also celebrated the 100th day of school by giving out gift cards every 100 minutes to one student in each class. They gave out a total of 44 gift cards from Five Below, Target, and Half Price Books. William Penn's character trait for February is self-control, and the corresponding color is red. The students wore red on Friday, February 5th, to show off their self-control. The PTO held a science fair on Thursday, February 18th, and over 25 different projects were displayed and judged by local community experts. They held their biggest fundraiser of the year called the Calendar Party, and it was on Saturday, February 20th at the Community Center. Over 200 women attended and had fun from what I heard too. Okay, moving on to the middle schools. Independence Middle School just finished the Bold and Gold events, and they were a huge success. They wanted to thank all the donations and the volunteers for supporting this event, including the high school kids. The 8th grade boys and girls came to IMS along with student leaders from the high school to help prepare them for what's to come in high school. They heard from many wonderful speakers on various subjects that were very pertinent for their age group. The kids love this, and the parents and the high school kids put a lot of work into it, so it's good. This is not really 100% of a PTO event, but it's children related and it's not academic, so I figured it was good to cover. IMS Team 7B is hosting a family fun night on Friday, February 26th from 7 to 9 at the IMS Auditorium. The night will feature magician Bob Mullins, and his show is appropriate for audiences of all ages. Admission is $5 and can be purchased at the door. They'll have raffle baskets, gifts, and all proceeds support the Team 7B service project, which is children's chemo care packages to benefit chemotherapy patients at Children's Hospital. IMS is looking for volunteers for 8th grade fun day and staff appreciation luncheon. They're also looking for new board members for the next year. They're in need of a new president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. All interested should contact Sharon Kai. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you very much, as always. Thank you. Solicitor's report.
Nothing to report.
You didn't have any committees, right? So we're down to public comments on agenda items only. Anybody? Then we'll move into our business items. Curriculum Committee and Mrs. Buckley.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook. There are 3 items this evening under curriculum. Would any like any of those held out? Hearing none, I move under curriculum number 1, the 2016-2017 school calendar, 2, local holidays, and 3, additional January graduate.
Second.
Items 1 through 3 under Curriculum Committee have been moved by Mrs. Buckley and seconded by Mr. Means. Any questions or comments on these items? I would just point out that the school calendar that we would be approving has a start date to be after Labor Day.
For the kids.
For
the children, yeah, teachers.
Well, that's what most everybody who's listening is concerned with. All in favor of items 1 through 3, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 9-0. Personnel Committee and Mrs. Rule.
There are 9 items under personnel. Are there any that anyone would like to have held out? If not, I move that we approve the following: approval of substitutes, approval of extra duty responsibility program, approval of extra duty responsibility, approval of staffing changes, approval of leave of absence, acceptance of a resignation, appointment of personnel, after-school elementary tutor professional, alternative education program 2015-16 school year, and 9 would be the approval of the superintendent's contract and term, and that term will begin April 18th, 2016, and run through April 17th, 2021.
Second.
Items 1 through 9 under personnel have been moved by Mrs. Rule and seconded by Mrs. Dobus. Any questions or comments on any of these items?
I have a question, please.
Yes.
For number 3, for the approval of the extra duty, if you look at the grid that we have, under high school, Mr. Howard, could you explain, because I'm confused where it says head coach, varsity cheerleading, the person's name, the stipend, and then it says assistant coach cheerleading. Those last 3 have double assignments, and I didn't know what that meant.
That's just the title change. So the head coach varsity cheerleading that's the description they have right now, and then the title to the far right is the title that is in the collective bargaining agreement.
Oh, okay. I just, that confused me, and I couldn't figure out what you were doing there. Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Cook, I just want to make a comment on number 9, that to clarify for those who may not be able to see the agenda, that the superintendent's contract term is for our newly appointed superintendent, Dr. Joseph Pasquarellis. So just to clarify for that.
Yes, thank you. And that we, when we appointed him, we didn't have a definite start date. So this solidifies his start date, which will be April 18th, 2016. And we had previously appointed him for a term of 5 years, so that just gives the end date of April 17th, 2021.
Mrs. Cook, just for clarification, because some people may not realize, I think the contract's going to be published, right, later? Is that how they do the contract, so people can see the details of it later? Or?
I believe that the superintendent's contract is required to be online, yes.
Yeah. So anybody wants to see that later, look at the details.
And the specified length of time also is dictated by the state mandate, 3 or 5 year contract. We don't have any other choices.
Well, minimum of 3, maximum of 5.
Yeah,
We
so
have to be within that range.
the point being, the start date, if he starts in April, he has to end in April 5 years from then. You can't extend it to the end of the school year, so.
Correct.
I have a question.
Yes.
One of the extra duty assignments is split on the 9-week basis. Somebody does it for 9 weeks and then somebody for the 3 9-week periods after that. Is that something that's normally done? Are we contractually obligated to do it? Because it seems like that creates a discontinuity in a program.
It depends on the, or do you have a specific one in mind that you were referencing?
I don't want to mention the specific one, but
okay. Sometimes if it's a cafeteria duty, for example, there may be a semester split because of the teacher's teaching schedule from one semester to another. If it might be a bus duty, perhaps during the season that one person might coach, they're not available to do the bus duty, so another person picks it up. And sometimes the teachers just choose to split the responsibility because sometimes the obligation for an entire year is burdensome.
okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on these items? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Those items carry 9-0. Facilities and Services Committee and Mr. Spicuzza.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook. 2 items to approve tonight. I would move the following 2 items. Item number 1, the high school stadium synthetic surface replacement. And item number 2, the purchase of a chiller for the William Penn Elementary School.
Second.
Items 1 and 2 under Facilities and Services Committee have been moved by Mr. Spicuzza and seconded by Mr. Means. Any questions or comments on either of these items? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Those items carry 9-0. We have a discussion-only item under Facilities and Services, being the high school entrance sign. Do we have a
Well, the board asked for some pictures, and if I can. So this is the sign that we're considering. This is a posted column sign with a digital display. Those are three examples that are
Matt,
three different examples.
Can you blow those up and move from one to another so the audience can see them a little better?
I think so.
Right there.
Can I get rid of that?
They're all basically done with brick columns that are brick matching the high school brick design.
And the other, this is just the old description. This is the sign that we presented back when the high school was finished. It's just it's actually a three-sided sign, which you can see down here below. It would have that same structure here and here, and it would look, just a basic sign.
You have the cost on those? I couldn't see that.
Sure. Well, this was presented back in 2013, and the estimated cost of this back then was about $17,000. So I'm sure it would be more than that at this point in time. And then the digital sign is probably, I think we said it was between $60,000 and $70,000.
And I guess the other point of discussion is, maybe you can address this a little bit, Mrs. Rose, but we did talk about, we have been given a donation
We've
of
been
funds.
sitting on a donation,
donation
I
of
believe it
funds.
was $6,000 for many years.
For many
from
years.
the
In fact, I was
PTOs.
just stopped recently by a parent from that group. That was back when I was in the PTSO, that we gave that donation as a starting point to get a sign at our high school for a communication purpose that we, just never had one. We funded
So
them
those
at-
funds would be applied to whichever design
Whichever
was
design.
selected.
Is there, I thought there was other money also available.
Oh, yes.
We do, we had a bequest.
A bequest,
Did I didn't
yes.
say that right? Bequest.
The district was the recipient of I guess, an inheritance from a graduate of, an alumni of Bethel Park. And since there were no remaining family members, the funds came to the district, and I believe that was $250,000. So we thought that perhaps if the board was amenable to it, that we could use those funds to create the sign and put a tribute plaque in honor of the deceased who donated those funds and his family to represent the gift.
So there would be
Yes.
no cost
cost.
to our general fund budget to be able to erect the
No cost to the taxpayer.
sign.
No cost to the taxpayer, that's correct.
Some sort of like an appropriate recognition for the donor.
For the family, right.
Yep.
And we can do a very tasteful plaque in stone or something that would be lasting, that would be
Put
embedded
into the
brick.
pillar.
What do we have to do to get this in motion?
Well, yeah, we had pulled the motion off to, we have to begin the process of the zoning, and what else was?
Well, there's gonna be
Kevin
some
Hayes'
design.
Some
and,
design.
I talked to Kevin today, and he said that the board could not commit to the full amount of the funds until he finished the scope and spec of the drawing, and then he'd have a better estimate at that time, and then the board could actually commit to the funding the project at that time.
Okay.
But for now, just commit to having Kevin proceed. There'd be some architectural cost, of course, associated with Kevin proceeding, but it wouldn't be the full $50,000 to $70,000. So it'd be, we end up committing
Is
to
anybody
his fee
opposed
for
to
the
having
design.
that motion put on there for next month to study it?
No.
Talk about it?
Let's do it.
I would like to talk about it as a board before we send him off on it, to kind of maybe give him some directions of what we like, or maybe we should get some public input, I don't know.
Yeah, I have an email to the council because one of the issues that surprised me was this fact about no lighting, and I don't believe that. I mean, I know it probably is, but I just find it.
Well, no, it's
if
true.
you have a sign at night, that somebody, especially with all the events, that you should
We have to
some
go,
kind of
we
lighting
have to
on
go
it.
to the zoning hearing board, though, and we had to do that for the IMS sign, which was one of the first signs we ever got lit. I was on the PTO there. The PTO's bought all those signs that are at each individual school that we went out and put the letters on, okay? When we put in all of those signs, we could not light them. But IMS felt that there was a need to have theirs lit because you couldn't find the building the way, you know, the driveway is for people coming there. And so we had to present before the zoning hearing board and
they granted
pay
it.
$250 to them to get a permission to light that sign. And then we were able to do the electrical work and light the sign. So that is factual. I've dealt with them on a number of occasions over.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, I'm not like, I can't believe it. I mean, like, it's sort of stupid, but not that it's.
But, I mean,
it's factual, but.
You're right. You know, they're
You have to pay
uncareful.
$150 to really get your permission, then, right?
Well, I mean, and you don't always get the permission, but, I mean, if you present a case and they so choose to, you know. When we first approached about the high school sign, it was that we weren't allowed to have flashing signs in Bethel Park, but then all of a sudden, we started seeing flashing signs in Bethel Park. And but the biggest thing I say is the municipality puts out a flashing speed limit sign. And that sign changes and it says, wear your seatbelts, and it continually flashes. So I think that, you know, we have a leg to stand on to meet the zoning criteria at this point.
There's
since
advertisements on it as well.
It's pretty much all
We
Bethel
presented
has.
some options here. Is this something that maybe Vicki, you could send out in your email, a Survey Monkey or something, let people vote on, you know, if we gave people options? You know, we presented this here, would it make sense to get some more input now from the community?
Yeah. I mean, it can't hurt, right?
We can look into it, I mean,
Trying to figure out
how
how to
Attach
we
a
could-
a photograph to Survey Monkey.
It's a,
I mean, I can do anything you want me to do. I mean, if you want public input on this sign, I'll figure out how to get it.
Yeah, I'm just.
It seems like a minor
we
issue.
Put up the pictures for public input, but how are we gonna collect the public input? You know,
Well, better question is, how are you going to evaluate it once you have it?
Whatever sign gets the most
Yeah,
votes.
I can see a survey for like putting up a new high school or
Yeah.
putting, I don't know about a survey for the sign.
Maybe not, I mean, I just thought I'd throw it out, because we presented some pictures here, now how do we collect feedback?
Yeah.
If that's what.
I want,
I'll tell you which one I like.
There you go,
That's good
it's
then.
done.
Just ask everybody in the room.
Okay, well, which one is it?
We usually do which one Vicky wants in.
When we,
Which
didn't
one
we
is it,
talk
Vic?
about this before? Didn't we pick like a shorter one or something like that?
which one's a shorter
I
one?
can't even remember now. I know we saw these before and had discussion about
Was
which
it last year?
one blended best with the high school.
Maybe that's what we can discuss at the committee
Well,
meeting
Vicky,
next
which
month.
one do you like?
Oh, I like the third one, the one on the far right.
This one?
Yeah. Yes. But again, you know, if you ask 10 people, you're gonna get 10 different answers.
Right,
We're gonna get, can we take the pillars on the first one and then the top of the third one and
Yeah. Vicki, I think you're wrong. I think if you ask 10 people, you're going to get 15 or 16 different answers.
Matt, is this a one-sided sign?
No.
So it would, where would it be placed? I mean, how do you face it so that it gets
It,
proper exposure?
It wouldn't be right on the corner, because they did some measurements already. It would be down off the corner, maybe 50 feet. But they took some measurements at the top of the hill and already took some measurements coming up the hill.
Do you know the dimensions of the sign, just roughly?
The only, I do not, that is the
That's
shadow
that's a
of man
person
is
standing there, right,
so
to give a dimension to
You
it?
can base it off that.
So it's about 18 feet high by...
Correct.
12 feet wide?
Could be a first grader.
And
I say
Vicki
it could
would
be a
prefer
first
that
grader
it be
up there.
electronic, so she doesn't have to drag a ladder down there to change the sign.
And there's no trees on that corner on the side, are there? Would have to be
No.
There won't be after we put the sign up.
Right. When's National Arbor Day?
So was it about 6,000 for him to do the initial, is that what it was?
He did
Last-
some of the preliminary work, and
I forget what we pulled off from last week.
Yeah, I think that was it,
6,000
because I thought that we already
to,
had that, I knew in our coffers, because that was what the PTSO had.
And that will,
so that
and
would be
the
no
6,000 would check out the zoning for us too,
yes.
to get ready?
Yeah, because there's no point in, if we don't have that passed. no
So
point.
that could be the motion in March. We could just put it
Okay.
on for Kevin, not to exceed 6,000 to proceed.
I think that sounds good. Is everybody okay? Yeah, so let's put that on, we'll put that on for March. All right. We are on to the Finance Committee and Mr. Amidits.
Yes, there are 8 items this time under the Finance Committee. Anybody want any of these held out? Hearing none, I move the approval of items 1 through 8.
Can I have a comment on number 8? Because, is that how we do that?
Well, yes, I have to get it moved and seconded
It was
first.
approved and seconded.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, yeah.
All right. So we have the 8 items. I move the approval of items 1 through 8. Number 1 being the February 2016 salaries and bills. Number 2, the January 2016 financial report. Number 3, budgetary transfers. Number 4, acceptance of the audit report for year ending June 30th, 2015. Number 5, approval of the agreement with NGR Curtailment Specialist. Number 6, regional-wide area network. Number 7, approval of the purchase of information technology equipment. And number 8, the approval of the bond underwriter and bond counsel.
Second.
Items 1 through 8 under Finance have been moved by Mr. Amidits and seconded by Mr. Means. Any questions or comments on these items? Mr. Workmeister.
Yes, just number 8, this is because I'm sort of new here on this yet, because whenever you have an opportunity, like, because we're gonna do this possibly refinancing, if you wanna call it that, for the bond, do we want to look at other banks again, or just stay with PNC and just do like he was proposing here? I mean, is there any possible benefit of switching the bank on this at this?
Would you like to address that, Mr.?
Yeah,
Howard?
there are definitely, there are 5 other institutions, maybe more, that perform this service. We've been with PNC since we've done the high school bonds. They've tracked our bonds. They've given us the service associated with all this, you know, for free, pretty much, through this process. And of course, in order to sell these new bonds that are forthcoming, seeking another company is always a possibility. It's been my personal history, and Buzzy can give his also, that once you build a relationship, we feel that that's probably the most important aspect of having an underwriter and having an investment banker in your corner. I've worked with other ones; they were also good, and they perform a service. But a lot of it is the when they go to sell the bonds, the power that they have to sell the bonds. And that's another reason why we are with PNC, is because they have a regional and national client base that can buy these bonds, and we feel that we're getting a very good deal with them.
Okay.
So it is an option. I mean, it isn't, but we're definitely comfortable with PNC.
Would there not be additional cost, though, because you're now having 2 people involved in the process, because PNC still has some responsibility, or not?
No, I think if
could
the
just
board,
you
if
could
the
pull that?
board would want to
Okay.
seek a different agent or a different investment banker, then you just would hire, RBC or PSDLEF, that company who had a very nice proposal, if you remember, when we chose PNC. So you just pick another company to do it, and then they could do it. And you really won't know their fees until they go out for the bonds, though.
I think I've just felt comfortable with them because we've been with them for so long, and like Mike Zubasic, he tracks just like him coming here, we know that means something because he keeps tabs on how things are performing, and he tells us, like, it's been 7 years since he was here. I'll be back when the timing is right for you to consider making a move.
Yeah, I mean, I was comfortable how he was presenting and all that, but I just don't know what options there are, and this seemed like an opportunity to at least consider it. And it sounds like, there is some consideration, but, there's all these roadblocks or hurdles that you'd have to get over. I mean, he has a lot of clout in being able to sell the bonds, and it may be a penny wise, pound foolish. Maybe we go through all this effort and we say, hey, yeah, we can save another $1,000, but when you look at the big scheme of things, having somebody that's, I don't want to say in bedbugs, but what's the right word?
Kind of been in the ground floor
Partner,
with us on it.
partner. I mean, they're a partner.
Partnership,
Yeah,
right?
right,
That's
yeah.
it. Then that would be good, yeah. Okay.
Would we expect any different bond rate? I mean, you mentioned that they have the ability, they're a good sales organization.
Sure.
So they have the ability to sell at a more desirable rate for us.
You mean rates associated
The rate
with the
for
bonds
the
or our rate?
bond, yeah.
The market, that's a market-driven rate. So
Right.
even if we put a rate of 3% and the market that day is not 3%, we're gonna sell those bonds at a discount if the market rate for those is 2.8, and we're gonna sell them at a premium if it's 3.2. Or I might have said that backwards, but so the market's gonna determine all that when the rates are set. No,
Okay.
we want to know what rate. We want to have a good rate going in, but the particular market for that day is going to.
So they're selling these through the general market, not through targeted investors or
Correct.
institutions or things like that?
That's correct.
Okay.
And our bond rating is set by, I think we're going to use Standard & Poor's this time, so that's independent of everything.
Okay.
Mrs. Cook, if I may reiterate something that I said at the committee meeting, just so that more people hear about it. We always talk a lot about spending money, and we try very hard as a board to save money. I just want to publicly compliment Mr. Karazi for number 5 with the NGR curtailment specialist. Since 2013, that has generated over $126,000 to date in revenue. So thank you, sir, very much for that. The taxpayers say thank you. And then for number 6, with the regional-wide area network, Mr. Ryer isn't here this evening, but even with the additional bandwidth, that represents an immediate savings of a little over $14,000. So I just want people to know that there are people working very hard to save money as well as spend it. Thanks.
They work really hard to spend it, don't they?
Actually, I have a question for Ron, but he's not here. Item number 7, am I reading that right, that that equipment is all reimbursed? Mrs. Rose, do you know?
Matt's probably better able to answer that. There's, under the E-rate, we do get reimbursement for some things, but Matt.
So the cost of the equipment is $65,000. Is that what you're looking at?
Well, it says
Jim?
it's the E-rate reimbursed network equipment. I was wondering if it was reimbursed.
We get
for the
40% back on our E-rate reimbursement. So we'll pay 65, we'll submit it to E-rate, and we'll get 40% of that back.
Okay, so we'll get 40% of the 65 back. Okay, thank you.
Good questions this evening. Anybody else have any? All in favor of items 1 through 8 under finance, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Those items carry 9-0. Mr. Means, would you take other for me this evening?
Okay, there's one item under other, and that is the adoption of the board meetings for January through December in 2017. So I move that be accepted.
Second.
Item 1 under other has been moved by Mr. Means and seconded by Mrs. Buckley. Any questions or comments on this item? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That item carries 9-0. We have a discussion-only item of our daycare school transfers.
Dr. Stark.
In a board note, I sent you some detailed information concerning what the parameters would have to be. This is something that was developed because we have citizens who are requesting this kind of flexibility. Considering what the rules would have to be, it would not be available to a large number of families. The class sizes in many of our buildings are at a point where we would not want to be adding to those, and of course we would have to consider the sizes of our special education classrooms. But it could be possible for a number of families to have that option. Now, according to the rules, we have to be careful how we permit that kind of flexibility. We have to watch out for the optimum class size, not the maximum class size, but the optimum. We want the best class size. We don't want to just pack it because somebody needs that option. We want parents to know that they're going to keep their child in the option school for the whole year because the movement is disruptive. And by the same token, at the end of the year, if something happens with the enrollment in that home building and it shoots up, parents would have to know that their child would be sent back to the home school.
During the school year or at the end of the year?
No, at the end of the school year. At the end of the school year. There are 3 parents in particular who've called me beyond the individual who visited the board meeting, and I was sharing some of these rules with them. This is what we would have to do to make it work for all of the children in all of the classrooms. And I think for the kindergarten year, I think parents are almost desperate for solutions. And the 3 parents that I spoke with did not have a problem with the parameters that we would put on it. So I guess the question is, does the board want to open this up to, it would be something that between myself and the principals, we would have to manage. I guess we would have to have an application, they would submit their interest, and we would have to make the decision and get back to them. Yeah.
Are there any legal parameters that we would be facing in this? What the option would be is that a parent could name their daycare center as their home for busing purposes to and selecting then the elementary school that they would be bused to from their daycare center to and from the daycare center as opposed to their home, which would be located in a different attendance area.
And it would only be available when optimum class sizes would permit it. So if a particular section had a fewer number of children, a parent wanted to move in based on their daycare accommodations, and there would be a space available for that child, they would be permitted to enroll for the year.
And the parent would have to accept the responsibility of getting the child to school and then after
To
school.
and from the daycare.
To the daycare,
The
okay.
school bus would pick up the child to and from the daycare, is that what you're saying, Dr. Stewart?
The parents would bring the child to the daycare, pick the child up at the daycare to go home. The school district would be responsible just transporting between the daycare and school.
So for example, if for some reason the daycare would be closed for a day, the parent would have to wait in the
Parent would
parking
have to-
lot with the child to put them on the
Yes.
school bus and be there to
The
pick them up,
school
for
district
example.
cannot incur any expenses related to transporting to that distant home. What I see as an issue, though, is it appears to me that there are more childcare facilities, preschool facilities on the Lincoln end of the district and the Washington end. Is that true? The Washington end doesn't have quite so many. And that's the incredible shrinking building with small class sizes. So I don't think it would be an option that could be extended to a large group of people, but I think we could probably help out a few of the families who seem to be desperate if that's something that you want to. We would keep it tightly in control if that's something you wanted to offer to families. I would certainly keep it in control.
I want to get back to the legal, any legal problems, because there are certain things that we are required to do on the state. So if we're going to then, based on this, require the parents to transport their child to the daycare, are we going to be in trouble, or are we going to be allowed to?
Well, I think the key issue from what I'm hearing, though, is that they're designating the daycare as the home.
That's correct.
And I think that's important because what the school code requires you to do is to provide, if you're providing round-trip transportation, you're providing it to and from the home. Okay, so if now they're voluntarily designating the daycare as the home, you are still complying with what your legal requirements are under the school code. I think the concern, or at least what I'm hearing, though, to some degree, is whether that can be applied in a uniform and consistent manner because of this disparity of where daycares may be located, and how that might impact the ability of one parent to be able to choose that option, and it foreclose another parent from being able to choose that option because of those.
That's exactly the complication. And we would, there's no way to weigh the relative merits of circumstances, so we would have to do it on a first-come, first-served basis, and I'm certain that there would be parents who wouldn't be permitted to do it, who would be outraged that some people can do it and some people can't. So that's really the question for the board. There certainly are complications.
Would there be any legal obligation to those parents that aren't happy that they can't participate, where we would be forced to make them, or to allow them to participate then?
That's going to be the difficult task, because the code, it requires uniformity.
So if we do it for one, then it has to be for all?
Yes, so I think the challenge is going to be is, can you actually implement that in a uniform and consistent manner? At the very least, suggest that our office be involved in reviewing what you're developing, so that we could see whether that is lining up with what the code requirements would be.
Even if we present negative, like say busing costs will go up or something, as a district, we can't say that's a good reason to say, look, we're trying to help some people out, let us do it, because it's not going to really cost us anything, it's giving them some flexibility, but yet for these other people, now the cost of busing is going to go up, and we can't use that as an excuse to not do it for some and do it for some others. It's like an all or
The
nothing.
premise of this is that we would only provide busing in the zones that we typically provide busing. The question is where that child is picked up, so that they can be in a different zone. If a parent designates that they want that daycare and it's on the wrong side of town for their residential, then they would have to go to another school. However, if we don't have room in that school,
Right.
and multiple parents determine that that's the designated home base, then you're saying we could be in some legal jeopardy. Is that correct?
Because I think what I'm hearing then is that option would be shut down as far as those parents would be concerned. I guess the option, which is the increased cost, is that now you have a home, a designated home as a daycare, but now because of class sizes, you pick up in a different zone and transport back to the home school, so to speak. Yeah, but that might involve increased bus runs to be able to accomplish that.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you would have to weigh.
Would-
To provide a uniform process, rather than a first come, first served, would we be better looking at, say, a lottery, where everybody has a chance?
Oh.
Would it be more uniform than, rather, and less of an unfairness issue?
I'm somewhat concerned about possible legal options as you're talking about it as far as school code goes. I didn't really anticipate that school code would have an impact on this.
I think the uniformity is the catch.
Yeah.
Barry?
Would having a policy provide a measure of protection?
Yes, again, but I think that's where we have to be careful in how we draft that, how we make sure that we're doing as much as we can to provide that uniformity. So it's something that we have to think through a little bit more. To make sure that we're doing everything we can to comply with the legal requirements.
I have a more basic question. If we allow some parents to declare someplace other than their home as their home, can we legally stop other people from doing it?
That's what I'm saying.
That's the question.
That's what I'm saying in terms of uniformity, yes. But I think what's happening is that you may not have that flexibility to do that because of where the daycares are located and where they put them in the zone as far as enrollment purposes in that school.
Typically, Lincoln is our most crowded school. It's the area where we have growth, so there will be more students coming into that school. And then the cluster of daycares in that region is going to provide more of a problem for Lincoln.
The other problem is if we're trying to maintain, I'll just pick an arbitrary number out, if we're trying to shoot for a maximum class size of 20, and somebody wants to boost it to 21 to get into that area, and they can pull out another school that has 23.
Right.
It's
we
fraught
talked
with
about that when we
complications.
first heard it, it sounded like it was going to help
easy
some of our
fix.
Yeah.
attendance zone numbers, but it doesn't necessarily do that because like Dr. Stark is saying, we tend to have more daycares that are on the Lincoln side or the daycares that they're seeming to want to transport from, go to Lincoln, and Lincoln is where we're busting at the
I mean,
city.
I think a good example in terms of this uniformity is
Mhm.
you can designate a daycare as your home as long as it's within the same zone, for purposes of enrollment, so if they can designate the one or two that are in the Washington zone, and then eventually that daycare is I mean, maybe the daycares have to increase their ability to provide the service if they know that that's an option to parents, and
Well, we ask parents to
We've
go
been-
down that route.
But here's-
We've
let me-
encouraged the daycares
Let me ask you
to
this.
provide
Vans and-
transportation.
Let me ask you this, we're already providing transportation to daycares. So,
Within the
Within-
school
within the,
zones.
within the zone.
Well, no,
We're already
there's,
doing that. Oh, we're doing
But are
that.
they
We're trying to
design-
go
No,
that
there's
route.
two that we
have
also-
People who want to go
Well,
to
that's the
their
exception.
designated daycare,
They're
but their
already on the bus
daycare
run.
is in the zone, say, for another
But,
school.
but here's the other question. What if I want to designate one of my relatives
There you go.
as the home?
and
my
we
child.
get, and we get that on a regular basis
So, I mean, I
too,
just think we're opening up
because
this
it's
can bigger
childcare.
and bigger as we talk about it.
What was part of this plan?
But you're
to
allowed to
limit it only
designate it
to
as a
kindergarten
home, he said.
students? Or was
It
it
has
the
come up
NEA?
most, it has come up most related to parents trying to resolve the issues for the kindergarten year, and it hasn't really come up. Once we would decide on this as a process, my guess is it could come up. And I just want to clarify that I'm not sharing this with you as a pro or a con. I just wanted to flesh out what the option would look like because we had a parent request. I'm beginning to be concerned about some of the liabilities that would be
Well,
involved.
and again, we thought it was an out-of-the-box idea. It sounded like,
Yeah.
again, with our attendance
Yes.
zones, if it was gonna, as Mr. Mean said, a 23 over here, to move them over here to a 20, but legally, I don't know if we can do it.
My concern is continuity for the child. Let's say that it would work for the kindergarten year and everybody's happy, and then come first grade, it doesn't work, so the child then would go back to their home school, so to speak, and then, oh, wait, now we have an opening in second grade, and I just think in fairness to the children, and also the other children who that is their attendance, their home school, I have some concerns about the confusion of that year to year. And it not being, it's not a question of saying, okay, the child comes in kindergarten, is in school A, they will remain through fourth grade in school A. That we cannot do. So that's where my concern is as far as the upset for the children.
When do we know enrollment numbers? I mean, would the decision,
The
wouldn't
day
be
that
able
school
to be made?
starts is not the
Yeah,
final date.
What?
We have people registering for kindergarten through the
That's what
first
I
week
mean.
of
You wouldn't
school.
be able to tell the parents
Right.
until
Right.
August.
If you go back and study the data that has been shared with us for the first week of school for the last X amount of years, there's numbers change in those days. It's amazing.
2 years ago, Memorial got 40 students enrolled 2 weeks before
Yeah.
school started. 40 students. And that impacts class size across all grade levels.
I'm very content with what the board would choose to want to do about this.
I have another legal question, though. In terms of the uniformity thing, there are 2 or 3 daycares that do bus to 2 different schools. So they're not always just in that locale.
But they're providing that service.
No,
what
we
she's talking
provide
about
it.
is we have daycares that, we have 2 buses that cross the daycare site. A bus that goes to Franklin and a bus that goes to Penn, let's say. So there is a few daycare sites
That do
pick
do
up children
service.
from a home attendance area of Franklin and Penn, let's say, or Memorial and Franklin, or something like that. That was determined based on the buses that cross there. They're not, the buses aren't doing any additional running. We also have a daycare center that is somewhat more centrally located, but they're not located on the main road. So buses have to go up into, and there's time involved in all of that. So that particular daycare center has 1 bus, 1 designation of a homeschool that buses to and from there. people will say, well, buses go by there all the time, but they go by on Route 88, for example, or South Park Road, that is not right at the daycare stop. And we wrestled with this for years. We put it off for many, many years since I've been on the board, you know, that we bus from everywhere to any daycare to anywhere. And we just, it became not cost effective. And, you know, we're going above and beyond our responsibilities, because even with kindergarten, we don't have to bus both ways. You know, many school districts just bus AM and PM. In middle of the day, you have to, you know, get them there.
My question, though, was just about uniformity. If we do it at a couple daycares, if we bus to more than one school from a couple daycares, do we have to bus to more than one school from all daycares?
We can establish our bus.
I think that's our bus line. I mean, that's not a bus run. That's just a bus line issue. That's not a uniformity issue. Our uniformity is that we bus from daycare centers to.
I had not heard of this
We do
uniformity
bus it
before.
from a daycare center to a school. So I think.
Yeah, that goes back to the previous question about can we just add on bus runs? In a sense, that's what you're doing, then, is so that you can get them back to their original attendance zone. So is that what you're suggesting?
No, you were just saying in terms of uniformity. So we're not uniform in the way we bus. Some daycares bus to 2 schools, some daycares bus to 1 school.
Okay.
That's what I meant.
It's based on the bus
their
line.
location.
Are you saying, I think you're saying
transportation. Yeah, the uniformity issue is the option that you're providing to the parent.
that we have to be uniform in providing an option that we do bus from a daycare center to parents.
We said it's within the school zone, but in reality, it's within the bus route zones.
The bus route within that zone.
The bus route's within that zone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's what we've kind of stuck with.
I mean, we can look at those zones again to see if there's anything that would make sense, that would open it up a little bit. But I think you've probably looked at it 1.5 million times, Matt.
Changes, we'll
Yeah.
look at it.
But we can look at it again and see if there's something that maybe would alleviate
I
some
think
concerns
KinderCare,
with
for
some
example, was extended to include Washington when it's really in the Penn service area. But that makes sense bus-wise because they're so close.
And the
Right.
buses
First,
are circling around it.
Does Franklin and
The routes of both of those schools cross those individual daycares. So the actual Washington kids, there's kids that live past that area and cross.
The parents who have contacted me are waiting to see what the board's wishes are in this area. So at the point when you would want to make a decision, if you would let me know, I would get back to them. I'm not sure if this is your decision-making moment or not.
I have another question before you do that. So if a parent who can't get busing to one of our school, or the school where they live, so if it's not possible to do this, and they decide to enroll in something like Young Scholars, what's the cost to the district?
That's what the parent who came to the board meeting was beginning to talk about, the relative costs of parents going to full-day programs in other locations and what it would
So do we know
cost.
what, for example, Young Scholars costs us a year?
It would be the, our tuition, right? So it's roughly $10,000 per student.
On the other hand, it's not,
$13,000.
it's not simply a financial problem either, because we're having trouble getting bus drivers.
Right, that's exactly right.
And the number of kids on the bus. It's a complicated issue.
$13,000. So 4 students, maybe $13,000?
Mrs. Rose, there
That's
is
significant.
there is a daycare available for everybody in every school district, isn't there? Every zone, not district.
4 of our 5 schools have daycares within them. 1 does not, but the students from that school are bused to the other school if they wish the on-site daycare. The problem is there's before school and after school care for the kindergarten children who are half day. that's not an option. It's one of the reasons why we were looking at that kindergarten center, quite frankly, that we could have provided a daycare option for those parents right in the house before and after care for half-day students. But we don't have space during the school day for a daycare for kindergarten students in the building because those rooms typically are being occupied.
There is an outside daycare for every.
But there are outside daycares that are associated with each zone. It's just when the parents choose one that's not in their zone that the conflict comes into play.
Is it possible then, as a starting point for all this, since we can go on without coming, that we could have our solicitor's office work with to try to come up with...
To see whether it's
policy,
feasible?
See whether it's even legal to do what we're talking about.
Yeah,
That would be
I was
my
going to
recommendation.
suggest something like that also, and, you know, maybe we could come up, we've talked about a lot of a lot of ideas here, maybe get it into not a policy, but just some bullet points of what would shape the policy, like, you know, what grades would it be limited to, you know, how we would handle, you know, what would be our proposal for dealing with the schools as a scarce resource if we have more people asking for certain schools than another, just some bullet points on how we deal with what the policy would begin to look like.
And I think continuing to collect the names of those and the data on where daycare, what school, et cetera, so that we have that,
I think in
whether it
that
can
case
even be
citizen,
doable,
if
as
we
you
could-
said, with the schools that we
If
have.
we could get a view on, you know, what, you know, from the solicitor, how do we deal with the fairness issue, the consistency, you know, what would be our legal risk?
Yeah.
I think implied with what you're saying is we would also want to know some idea of how many people we could help or how many people this would affect.
Yeah.
And that's going to vary from
That's
year to year.
what I was going to
Frank,
say, it could vary from within year, yeah, month to month, exactly.
And zone to zone and daycare to daycare.
But we could
You know,
get an
what
idea of
parents' requests are.
whether it's going to be 10 or 100, so I mean, some ballpark.
We would also need
idea.
some guidelines, I would think, date-wise, so that it's not, well, October, oh, by the way, I want to change, and now I'm going to do this because there's an opening over there, and the confusion of all of that, so it would have to be very
Yeah.
specific with dates.
This is, what, our fourth year of not providing transportation to, or fifth? And our goal, our hope was that, you know, as that became more established over time, the parents would start choosing their daycares based on the zone of their residential school with an anticipation of kindergarten and first grade and second grade needs. But we do have parents who move into the district who aren't aware of that and start in a daycare center, or there's no room in the one that they wanted in their zone. But for whatever reason, they felt more comfortable in another daycare with their infants, and then they become entrenched in that district. It's in that daycare. It's a comfortable, safe place for them, and that's a very emotional issue for parents of young children. They want, you know, the safest, the best, the most comfortable. Maybe it's close to their work or on their way home, and you know, it's just convenience. So now, you know, it's coming back to the district again as to, you know, how can you accommodate us? And that had been in the past a very expensive venture because we were crisscrossing buses across the district to get kids to daycares that, you know, the child might be at William Penn going to a daycare near Lincoln. That was a huge waste of tax resources. So something that it was a difficult decision for the board at that time, but it made sense financially to stop that practice.
Is kindergarten required in all districts?
Kindergarten is not required in the state of Pennsylvania. However, if you have a kindergarten, then you have to play by the rules that apply to first grade and second grade and so on.
You can't terminate a kindergarten program once you start it, can you?
Oh, sure you can.
I'm not saying we would want to,
Yeah.
but the reason
The cameras are rolling, Jim.
the reason I'm asking
Check Facebook right now.
the reason I'm asking all this is because kindergarten is under a different set of rules, but if you are a parent, do you have the option of sending your kindergarten-age child to a, what do you call it, a charter school?
Yes.
Okay, so it would be treated the same as a first grade child if you have a kindergarten?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. They can go to a parochial school, a charter school, cyber school, homeschool.
That doesn't cost us anything, homeschool.
A little bit of time.
Just wanted to reiterate Russ's point about
They do.
family members across the district and creating daycares there. I take and answer and sometimes defer to Dee various numbers of those calls a year. That,
We probably get more of those than the daycare calls. Grandma's going to be watching, Aunt Mary's going to be
Grandma,
watching.
And we do say no to that.
Right.
Yeah, but how can we say no to that in the future?
That's a point that we have to definitely consider.
Yeah, so that's like Cindy was saying with the guidelines, we'd have to include a lot of these things in the guidelines and maybe have some criteria that would allow us some flexibility, being able to tell a parent no, like cost increases. I mean, that could be like if the cost increased $1, we say no, or whatever the amount is, and these kind of things, and we should have like a whole big list of all those.
Well, I think the direction from the board at this point is that Dee will work with the solicitor's office to provide the talking points that you've already established and to see where the legal implications are.
Will do.
Regarding that. Okay, thank you.
And while we're discussing this, Mrs. Rose, you brought up, I have gotten questions, can we, I guess, apprise the public of the board's directive to cease the kindergarten center study in light of the fact that we have a new superintendent coming on board? Do you want to just publicly state that?
We are publicly stating that at this point we had been looking at the feasibility of a kindergarten center. I asked Dr. Stark to apprise the kindergarten teachers that we're going to postpone that decision for the immediate future to give some time for the new superintendent to come in and weigh in on the decision. It's only fair that he has a chance to lead the district in the direction that he so chooses. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So, your kindergarten options are status quo for next year.
Yes, thank you. And now we move to public comments on anything you wish to address the board on. Name, address, and 2 minutes at the microphone.
Hi, John Waterstram, Keystone Drive. As someone who's reached out to all of you about this transportation issue, the first thing I just want to raise is to the issue of uniformity. All daycare centers within Bethel Park are not equal under accreditation. Some are accredited both by Keystone Stars and the NAEYC, some are not, and some are not accredited at the same level, just as a point of information. Second, I just wanted to say that, again, we talk about, it's been 4 years since the change. What about parents who bought under the old rules? When you buy your home in 2009, the rules change in 2012. There should be, is there a way to create a provision for grandfathering? We did buy our home in a certain district prior to the change. What option is there for us? Third, again, I just wanted to note that, we do very much appreciate the discussion. This is exactly what we had asked for, my wife and I, when we started this process. And again, I thank you. However it comes down, we thank you. But as a taxpayer, I would still say I hope that we don't confuse the forest for the trees of the cost argument between several tens of thousands to provide busing across the district, which was previously available, for the forest of the large-scale expenditures which are outside of the board's control if parents of a child choose to enroll them into charter school, cyber school, etc., where even in a parochial school, busing would still have to be provided. That cost is still to the district. So again, we thank you. This is not new ground I'm providing to you, but I just wanted to reiterate those points. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the school board. It sure is a jolt to learn that the proposed school budget here in Bethel hit the shocking figure of $85.9 million. That's my age.
And can you introduce yourself? Can you
I don't
introduce
like it at
yourself,
all.
please? Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Anita Podekar, Mapleview Drive.
Thank you.
Sorry. Anyway, how do we get there so fast is hard to understand, but we are there. So I think that more than ever, we need a kind of equality between the spending and the financial resources that are available. Perhaps this can be achieved. Maybe the school board can be more emphatic to ask for a budget that is near $0 million increase, or better yet, to have a budget with no tax increase. Perhaps each department could be asked to cut their spending by 5%, which indeed should help. Another suggestion could be that a cost-benefit department maybe that would scrutinize current programs and requests for increases that are proposed. Citizens from our community could be on that committee, of course. There used to be a citizen advisory, I think it was Citizen Budget Advisory, and made up of residents in Bethel Park. And some of them had businesses of their own, and they understood budgeting. This advisory was formed for the purpose to advise and assist with budget. Is my time up, Matt?
Your time
I
is
hope
up.
not.
Scared of daylight son.
Your time is up.
Wow.
Anyway, perhaps a committee such as this could be formed during budget time from citizens in the community to review the budget and advise and assist with it. Might be of some help to you. Anyway, you folks have a difficult piece of work to maintain the high standard of our education, and also doing it within the fiscal parameters that you need to take care of. We appreciate all of your efforts, and thank you very much. I hope the 85.9 doesn't stand.
Hi, good evening. Sandy Blackmore, 3540 Valley Drive. I'm up here doing a plug for the service unit project for Friday. That is the team that I'm on. Our 7B students have worked very hard on this project. There are over 40 baskets that will be there for raffles. Our team has been working on making blankets, backpacks, and crocheting caps for these chemo care packages. So I'm inviting everybody to come Friday and see the magician. There will be also face painting and a little craft for the kids to do also. So everybody's welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy, which team is that?
7B.
7B, thank you. What time?
The magician starts at 7:30. I think the doors open at 6:30, so you can pick tickets for the baskets and have the kids can get their faces painted and do a little craft.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brian Wallace. I live at 5988 Glen Hill Drive. I am the president of the Bethel Park Boys Lacrosse Boosters Club. Thank you for the opportunity to follow up on comments and requests made by Joe Johns in the school board meeting on October 28th and December 8th, and his email to you on November 9th regarding increasing the pay of the coaches within our school district. As you will recall, his request has a few items to be addressed. Establish an equitable pay scale for all coaches, produce that scale at a current market rate, further improve the scale to be competitive with school districts with top academic or athletic programs. I'm here today to make you aware that I support this request to increase our coaches' pay, as Joe has outlined for you. Also, I request that you find a way to increase or include the increase in pay in the up-and-coming budget. I'm aware that you have approved a preliminary budget of $85.9 million. To bring our coaches' salaries to an equitable and current market rate would require an additional $100,000, which is 0.1%, 0.1%, raising the increase in the budget from 3.6% to 3.7%. This is a small, palatable, and long overdue gesture to recognize the efforts of our coaches and the great work that they do on and off the field for our student athletes. Thank you again for the opportunity to address this important issue, and thank you again for your future focused leadership related to academics, facilities, and athletics for our school district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michael Ferris. I live on 739 Galway Drive. I'm also on the lacrosse board, so I'm piggybacking off what Brian said. But I coached high school sports also back when I was graduating high school, and you guys know what type of commitment it takes. I mean, look at the cheerleading board that was there tonight for these coaches to coach our children, and to lose one of them is a tough thing, but, we need to keep competitive with the school districts around us, and I would just ask to review, pay raises for our coaches to keep the good ones there, because truly they're the ones that keep our kids off the streets and keep them safe. So I would ask you to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll move into board comments. And Mr. Amonitz, I think I'm down at your end.
No comments, Stephen, thank you.
Mr. Workmeister.
Well, just first congratulating and thanking, actually, more so Sarah and Joe from way back a couple hours ago when we were talking about them earning their scholarships from the military. I have a lot of respect for the military, so I'm thanking them for their future service to us. And the cheerleaders, of course, and everybody else with all their awards, and Ron with the CTO and all that. And just a quick comment about the citizen group that you're talking about. I was on one, and that goes back many, many years, I think 20 years ago, so I know what you're talking about. I think it'd be good for people to be more involved with the budget, and also just to see that simple pie chart of where all of our money really does go. There's not that much that we have control on compared to what the big pie is, but I won't go into details right now, but I agree with the idea of getting the citizen control board group going again like they have. And thank you. That's it, since it's late.
Thank you.
I think as Sue
Mr.
said,
Christian, sorry.
when we saw all the highlights from the school, Allegheny County Special Bethel Park really is a school of champions. When you look at all the science club champions, the chorus and band is fun to see that. It really was.
I agree. Mrs. Rule.
I was just excited to see Emily Smoller and the other teachers nominated, because I've had occasion to work with Emily, and she's even calling me when she's in the car picking up her kids, so she's constantly on the move. Does a great job with our DECA group. They've just done so well. And in light of that, I just want to mention that her bunny brunch is going to be March the 12th from 11:30 to 1:30, so you need to be signing up for your tickets through the chamber website. So I had to let you know that. The other thing is that I happen to be away, but I'm the vice president of Steel Center. That's what happens when you're not there. And also Allegheny Intermediate Unit, we did have the auditors come in, and you've probably read about them in the paper on and off about financial doings that have been going on, but they did do their budgeting this last time and went down to zero-based budgeting, which, those of us come from business know that's how you do it. And it really was an eye-opener that they realized how much these services actually cost and how much it costs when you tack every little thing on. So I think they're headed in the right direction. They're looking at all their programs that way, so that when the schools meet, now they've already had the superintendents involved and the business managers from several of the schools formed a committee and have worked on trying to get this all the programs in good shape. But just to let you know that they really have taken their budget down to bare bones, and they are waiting monies too from the state. So they have to charge the schools what it costs them to provide the service. And we have 2 schools right now that are delinquent, very delinquent, that haven't paid their monies, and with the state budget, you know, I mean, when they owe you $3 or $4 million, that's a big chunk out of their budget. So this budget situation is affecting everyone. But they provide special needs and many other programs to 42 different school districts. So, but they are working to keep things under control. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Mr. Spacuzza.
Wow. Am I still awake? I can't tell. It's been a long couple of days. A couple things, just real quickly. Anita, you and I were on a Citizens Budget Committee together, I don't know, 9-10 years ago, something like that. My issue is we can't get people to come to a budget meeting. You know, I mean, I don't know if we'd get enough citizens to participate in a budget committee. Well, I'm not against it. I'm just telling you that you almost have to recruit people because they're not going to volunteer. That's a problem. One thing we did forget to do, we do have a committee meeting coming up, and we didn't notice, we didn't make that mention. Would you like to, you want to do it?
Yeah, I have it on.
Okay. I was actually paying attention, even though it looked like I wasn't. I guess, and this is not an up or down comment, but on your comment about the $100,000, we also pay retirement on that money, and it's not just the $100,000. We have to look at the total cost of anything we do. So it's just not one number. It's additional numbers down the road, and they continue to mount as we go forward in time. So just so you understand that, I'm not trying to say I'm against it or for it. Just want to make that point of clarification. I'm done.
Mrs. Buckley.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook. I just want to say that sitting here and listening to all the things that the PTO and PTA folks do for the children in the school district, I'm always looking for ways to save money. They save us a lot of money with all their hard efforts. And I just truly appreciate that, as I know the board members do as well. And as far as getting the word out, I just personally want to say thank you, Mrs. Floda, for all that you do to put the staff report together to let the taxpayers see and the parents, the grandparents, and everyone be proud of all the things that their kids are accomplishing. The Chronicles and the work that you do for the community Bethel Park magazine. There's a lot of information in here that just came this week, and I just think it's very important that all people, not just certain people, know about that, so I appreciate that. And then also, as Mr. Spacuzza said earlier, there will be a finance curriculum meeting, and we have it scheduled for Wednesday, March the 9th. And since I've praised Mrs. Float, I'm now giving her another job to do, that she'll be getting the information, the details out.
It's already on the website.
Oh, see, she just always a step ahead of us. So thank you again, Mrs. Float.
What time is that meeting, 6:30?
It starts at 6:30, and we hope that lots of people attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Means.
Well, a lot of people have good ideas, but they cost money, and the money has to come from someplace. And if we allocate money one place, it has to come from someplace else. So to paraphrase the late Senator Everett Dirksen, $100,000 here, $100,000 there, pretty soon you're talking about some real money. So that's it.
Mrs. Davis.
I'm just constantly amazed when I listen to the staff report and all of the accomplishments, because it's never just one thing. It's never just sports. It's never just music. It's music and sports and art and making a canoe and sewing and science. It's just excellence is abounding everywhere. And then there are teachers who are finalists in the state, and Ron, who's just gotten the award for being the best technological leader in school districts in Pennsylvania. I don't know if that's exactly how you would say it, but, and then there, the kids are excited about talent shows that are going on with the PTO and all these wonderful activities, and it just makes me proud to be here in Bethel Park, so that's all I have to say.
Absolutely, I say that every time. And I guess maybe I will dovetail on what a few of my directors said in just talking about budget and monies and the things that, the tough decisions that are made. One, know that budget number will change. You know that we are required by state law to produce that way early on. As I said, what does it mean?
It's basically a milestone, that's all, we're just checking off the box.
Right, just a box to fill in. The other thing I will talk about is one-time versus recurring monies. I talk to my board about this all the time, and this is what people have to understand when we discuss even some of these items. Like you'd say, okay, buying a sign is a huge expenditure of money. Why can't you use that money to settle up over here? One-time expenditures of monies, one-time monies come in, like we have received a what did I say? I say that word wrong. Bequest. Bequest. I'm going to say it. Bequest. I said it wrong. Yeah, I know. That's what I did. I used the verb instead of that. The bequest. Okay, that's one-time money. That money comes in one time. It's not going to be there next year. When people talked about the federal monies that were taken away, we as a board knew those monies were one-time monies. We did not use them to settle a contract, to pay something that's going to be an ongoing debt, to pay something that's going to occur every single year in our budget. We knew that money was going away. There were boards that did not and that balanced things on that, and then that's when they were in trouble. So when we look at some of these expenditures, we have to look at a coach's salary. That's never going away. That has to be recurring money. That has to be money that I can guarantee from year to year to year will be in that budget. As my fellow board member indicated, when you talk about $1,000 or $100,000 as a budgetary number or a number to pay in payroll, it isn't just that figure. Because I have to match Social Security for that. I have to pay unemployment compensation on that. I have to pay PSER's retirement fund on that. Everything is based on that money, that number. So it goes out, and the end number is not that initial number. Again, that has to be recurring monies that is in my budget from year to year to year. As we said, we can't seem to get folks here to even listen to the budget presentations when they're done. I don't know. It would be wonderful to say that we could get more help. I know there are people out there. I know there are people in the past that have volunteered to help us with this whole process. I don't know how we encourage more participation. I'm not sure what the answer to that is. I think folks are so busy in their own everyday lives that they don't find the opportunities to come out and participate in this big whole picture in the big scheme of things. But I agree with Mrs. Dobas, and I say it every time, Bethel Park is a wonderful place to live, and it's because of all of the children and the people and the community as a whole. It's a wonderful place. I will ask for a motion to adjourn, and remember we do have to stop back for one little bit of executive session.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
We would like you to join us for the Bethel Park Cheerleaders and Boosters 26th Annual Spring Fashion Show that benefits Special Olympics Allegheny County.
This year's Starry Night theme show will be held on Sunday, April 3rd, 2016 at Independence Middle School's auditorium. The doors will open at noon.
Tickets are $5 for adults and $3 for students. Due to the incredible support of the community for this annual event, all organizers and participants are volunteers, enabling all proceeds to go directly to this very worthwhile charity.
Last year, the fashion show culminated in a donation of more than $8,000, raising the BPCBA's total donation from the past 2 decades to more than $177,100.
Your support on behalf of this very important cause will help to raise money to enrich the lives of Special Olympic athletes throughout Allegheny County.
Through your support, these very special athletes will be given opportunities to train in 14 different sports and compete in 22 tournaments throughout the year. Each year, we invite an ambassador to participate in this exciting charitable event. This year, we have 2 special guests.
We are pleased to introduce our 2016 Special Olympic athletes. Here is Andy and Ellie. Both Andy and Ellie live in Bethel Park and are a part of our community and schools.
There is a wonderful afternoon planned with fashions and many local retailers. Please come to our fashion show and watch us. Please support Special Olympics of Allegheny County and my fellow athletes.
There's also a fabulous basket auction and light refreshments. Our primary source of fundraising comes from the basket auction segment of the show, where the baskets are comprised of items donated by local businesses.
We hope to see you at the 26th Annual Bethel Park Cheerleaders and Boosters Fashion Show benefiting Special Olympics Allegheny County on Sunday, April 3rd, commencing at 1 p.m. at Independence Middle School. For tickets, please see any Bethel Park cheerleader or call 412-292-4013.
Please support Special Olympics.
Come see us. Go Hawks!